Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy's Ted.
And in this GM 911, Nerdarchy explores the idea of creating a new Warlock Patron.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So as always, down in the description, you can also find the original GM 911 post, as well as if you have your own GM 911, send it to nerdarchy@gmail.com, GM 911 in the subject line.
All right, so we received a GM 911 from Marina. She's got a player who has a pact, a Warlock pact with Asmodeus, and she wants to break that pact and get a different one. They encountered an ancient dragon, hoping that maybe they could switch over to that as opposed to the fiend. What do you do? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, they're all about it. They're interested in doing this. They think it'll add to the story. Marina is just a little bit is looking for a little bit of guidance on how to execute is the key thing, and what happens. The character is the player character is a fiend warlock. So what happens? Did they have to fight Asmodeus? What do they got to do?
Well, first, we don't actually have a dragon pact, but there's nothing to say that you couldn't grant the same benefits. Just the person who's giving that to you is no longer a fiend, but is now a dragon. So you have a new ally, you have a new enemy. Asmodeus himself is probably not going to come down here and not going to come up here and put the hurt on you himself because it's beneath him.
He's got minions for that.
He's got minions. So that's what you're going to wind up facing. It's like, dude, we had a deal. You have broken faith. And at first, it could be powerful creatures who are just coming to have conversations to say, how do we fix this?
Right, they could be trying to entice you back, or that could be a whole thing. Also, like the idea of, do I have to fight him in order to get the pact broken? Is kind of like, you wouldn't want to go that route, because the fighting Asmodeus is like the end of campaign thing, right? That'd be like, yeah, you did it. You're a Dragon Pack Warlock now, and you guys retire. So that doesn't work. Also, I think we've done a Dragon Pack Warlock video. Like, I think we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a channel search and dig that up, or I can see if I can find it and put a link someplace. But I feel like we did that a couple years ago. So it's definitely doable. Like you said, you can just leave it the same and be like, well, your power comes from here now. It's been kind of hijacked by the dragon. After you guys remove the curse on it, you're all good to go. You could create a dragon pack for the warlock and be like, here, you know what? We're going to do something different and unique, and it's going to be for your character. And you're going to want it to be on par with what other warlocks are getting. And you could do it that way. You could also just reflavor and reskin what they've gotten instead, where it's like, it's mechanically all the powers are working the same. It just looks a little bit different. The Pack of the Fiend, like, I believe the first level ability is you kill an enemy, you get temporary hit points, right? Well, what if those temporary hit points were represented in spectral scales? It's like a spectral draconic figure that kind of like gets strapped onto your warlock, so they can see it represents, and you're just going to look at like the different abilities. One of the other ones that you get at very high levels is you hit them with an attack and you send them through hell, and they take a ton of damage. Well, what if instead of doing something like that, a giant spectral dragon just appears out of nowhere and breathes on this one individual, only on that individual? Or,
what if you yourself unleashed a breath weapon that became spectral beyond your target, so therefore, like, no one else got hurt but the dude that you're hitting?
You could absolutely do that. You could do any number of things. A dragon appears, swallows them, and then they experience going through the innards of a dragon and then being vomited out, and it just disappears. You can come up with a bunch of different ways to just reflavor, or you can just be like, hey, what would be cool for this. Like, you could look at the Draconic Sorcerer and steal some of those abilities and give them to the Warlock. I don't think that's going to break the game.
No.
You know, you could be like, oh, well, you know what? You have Draconic Scales now, so your armor class is 13, plus your dex, so you don't have to wear armor if you don't want to. I mean, obviously, if that doesn't really benefit the player, you might not want to give that as a benefit, but it's just an idea.
You have the ability to literally tailor the abilities suited for the dragon for this particular character, and you can have a lot of fun with it.
Right, so it makes sense. And if they're not wearing great armor anyway, giving them the sorcerer ability to have the, you know, have the armor class and that bonus hit point level, that might be a pretty cool get for them.
Absolutely. You know, beyond fighting the minions of Asmodeus, like what kind of things would you have as kind of a separation between I had a fiend, now I've got the dragon?
Well, clearly, if this dragon is now your patron, he's going to send you to do things. Like, so he could be a quest giver for the party. No, and basically he had a curse on him, and the party's helping to break the curse. So they're all kind of invested in this NPC now anyway, but you're like invested a little bit more. You could have role playing sessions with this character going to spend time with the dragon, where, you know, the dragon is actually mentoring them, teaching them how to, you know, the ways of magic and the power that's been invested by this pact, by this bond. So you get to do things with that. You do things with that, and it just becomes a interesting NPC to interject in your campaign world. And then the other thing is, now by doing this as well, you know, maybe the dragon is kind of taking on some animosity or even an obligation from Asmodeus by taking you away.
Mm.
So that might be a whole nother element. So there might be these politics from these higher beings that are going on, and you're kind of like caught in the middle.
So I was looking at it that they could potentially, like, you could actually do this whole ritual, and it might, you know, require some kind of special reagents. So you can do a quest to go get them. You know, the dragon does this whole rite of passage for this character, and it's a, you know, quick ceremony that you just describe all these cool things, and, you know, as the dragon from the fire, or as the fire from the dragon burns off the fire from the lower planes, and, you know, kind of makes you anew, and, you know, now you go about, you know, following this guy, and you could still link that into, you know, the political problems of these two higher powers. You could still have the minions that are running around that are kind of against you because you've severed ties. So I think there's a lot of quests and a lot of both role playing and combats that are going to happen because of it.
Well, also the other thing is, what level is the character when this happens, right? Because I feel like the higher level the character is when this happens, the more vested Asmodeus is going to be in them, and you know, it's also like a losing of face type thing as well, where they might feel slighted. So Asmodeus, one way or another, is going to probably always be in your life, and the culmination of the campaign might be having to go to hell and try and kick Asmodeus's teeth in. Not that I recommend that. That is not going to be an easy task.
Right.
Or doing something that's going to forever kind of like shed you of Asmodeus. But in the meantime, he's going to look at you as the prodigal son or daughter and always be trying to get you back because he doesn't want to lose face.
How would you handle this in your game? Have you handled something like this in your game? There's a great place to continue the conversation. It's down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.